Hi, I'm Kimberly, and welcome to As I've Seen It. Eldridge Cleaver, writer, activist, Black Panther. Eldridge once stated, "There is no more neutrality in the world. You have to be part of the solution or you're going to be part of the problem." Now, there are many folks running around today who are part of the problem. And what is the problem? The problem is we have an orange-faced man baby who thinks he's about to be president. Now, some of the people running around being part of the problem are those who seem to be waiting for some sort of revolution. Recently, someone sent me an interview conducted by one of my favorite journalists, Mehdi Hasan. And Mehdi Hasan works for Al Jazeera English, and he hosts a program entitled Upfront. So in this particular interview, he went back and forth for about 12 minutes with the intellectual, philosopher, Marxist Slavoj Žižek. And they went back and forth about the revolution. And one of the reasons I like Mehdi Hasan is that he asked the kinds of questions that I would ask. And in this particular case, he asked them while I was shouting them at my computer. And the reason I was shouting is because many of these people, Žižek included, have no regard for the people they are willing to throw under the bus to bring about said revolution. You see, before this election, there were a whole lot of famous folk who were saying things like, "Oh, it'll be great if Trump is elected because that'll bring about the revolution. It's perfectly fine that Trump is elected because then, people will rise up." There were folks who wanted to create this equivalency. Hillary was so establishment that it didn't matter whether you elected her or Trump, things would just be the same. So now that the election is over, where's their revolution? You see, we can already prove that Trump's election is doing horrible things to people. Both the FBI and the Southern Poverty Law Center have noted the increase in hate crimes, and these are hate crimes committed by people whose candidate won. I understand there are a lot of people who were upset that Bernie Sanders did not become the nominee for the Democratic Party. I understand their frustration, I understand their anger. Not only did Bernie not win the nomination, the Democratic Party threw him under the bus. When it was clear that Donald Trump posed a threat to immigrants, to Muslims, to women, to African Americans, to the LGBTQ community, Shaun King not only wrote an article that showed how to pivot from being a Bernie supporter to backing Hillary Clinton for the sake of saving the nation from Donald Trump. In that article, published July 26th, I believe, in that article, Shaun tells us why we had to let go of Bernie's nomination. Let's face facts. Bernie did not win the South. He simply did not have the numbers there. And Shaun, for the sake of groups of people he loves, immigrants, Muslims, African Americans, he got on the Hillary bandwagon because he saw how dangerous Donald Trump could be. Where are these so-called revolutionaries? And who do they think is going to lead their revolution? Do they think it's going to be these people? Do they expect it to be the people of the First Nations, our Native Americans? They're a little bit busy. People for months have been fighting at Standing Rock. They have stood in front of attack dogs, sicked on them by an oil company. They have stood in front of water cannons. These people have been arrested, caged, abused. They have been treated in such an inhumane manner. And they know that even though they have won the battle, the war still rages. Why? Because Donald Trump has just selected as head of the EPA someone who denies climate change. He appointed a Secretary of the Interior who wants to sell off public lands. So those who've been at Standing Rock know this war is not over. They don't have time to fight your revolution. Did they expect Black people to fight their revolution? When multiple jurors refuse to convict an officer of shooting an unarmed black man in the back, when a road rage incident ends with a white man shooting an unarmed black man 3 times, and only public outcry over that leads the prosecutor to arrest and charge him not with murder, but with manslaughter. When Trump has appointed a white nationalist to the White House, when Trump has appointed an attorney general who sues black people for voting, black people don't have time to fight your revolution. Do you think poor people are supposed to fight your revolution? You see, poor people are already under attack. Once Trump was elected, the Republican House, led by Paul Ryan, immediately went after the poor. You see, Paul Ryan not only wants to repeal Obamacare, he wants to cut Medicare, the health care for people with disabilities and for the elderly. Nobody ran on cutting Medicare. He wants to cut Medicaid, the health care for the poorest of Americans. In addition to that, a Republican in the House just introduced a bill to cut Social Security, to take money away from those who receive benefits because they are disabled or elderly. Not future generations, those receiving benefits now. Add to that the fact that Paul Ryan also wants to cut food stamps. He literally wants to take food out of the mouths of the poorest Americans. So poor people do not have time to fight your revolution. They're fighting for their lives. Did you think labor unions were going to fight your revolution? When the so-called president-elect sends out a tweet attacking the president of a labor union for telling the truth, when Trump sends out a tweet denouncing an American company and that company's stock prices fall, when Trump appoints a labor secretary who's anti-labor and who thinks that the national minimum wage should not be raised, labor unions don't have time to fight your revolution. So if you are sitting around the house talking about revolution, writing about revolution, thinking about revolution, and not starting a revolution and not even writing a check to fund a revolution, you are part of the problem. So let me tell you about some folks who are part of the solution, in case you're wondering what that's supposed to be. Shaun King, on the 61st anniversary of the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott, he started a new boycott. He started a boycott that will, of course, cover Standing Rock, but also New York City and San Francisco. Why? Because both of those cities still have police officers on their payroll who have killed unarmed black people. Shaun is part of the solution. Someone who started being part of the solution day one, right after this election when we were all still too traumatized to do much of anything, Michael Moore. Documentary filmmaker Michael Moore stepped up and said, I will be a leader. I will be a leader for this movement. And not only did he step up, he gave us action steps. He actually told us what to do to get started resisting a Trump administration. Michael Moore, part of the solution. One of my favorite TV personalities is also part of the solution, Keith Olbermann. I first started watching Keith Olbermann on TV back when he had a show called Countdown on MSNBC. I discovered him during the Bush administration. Keith is now on the internet, and his program is called The Resistance. And one of the reasons I like Keith is that he's a hothead like me. And he is telling Trump, his children, and his minions everything they are doing wrong. One of my favorite activists and pundits is Van Jones. Van Jones has chosen to engage. He has chosen to engage with Trump supporters, those who felt left behind economically, those who feel like the country is culturally moving too fast for them. I have to confess, I ain't there yet. I am not ready to forgive those who threw a whole bunch of people under the bus. Van is stepping into that role. He's part of the solution. To those of you waiting for the revolution, those of us you threw under the bus, we don't have time to fight your revolution. We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our communities. We're standing up and fighting for each other's communities because we all know that at the end of the day, we are all one big community. Thanks for watching.